It's rolling. So those were the challenges that I had to face just to open up this restaurant. Was that trying to get them to understand the process of barbecue. But this is Oakland. That's the last stop of the Great Black Migration. So it's like a lot of those foodways from the South came here to Oakland, and then for them to not understand barbecue or to be able to allow me to do barbecue outside. But it was just more so just kind of educating them on the process of doing craft barbecue. A lot of the barbecue places they had before was just simply lighting up a grill, somebody walking away, or it's dripping oil and all that. It's this whole perception. It's a negative perception of barbecue. So when they see the offset smokers, all of these are, the reason why they're called offset smokers is because of offset firebox. So they're all decommissioned propane tanks, all right? So that was the contingency. Like, hey, you want to open up this barbecue restaurant, you have to put your smoker inside. And I'm like, man, we custom built this smoker from the ground up. So it's like I had to get it NSF listed, which all cooking appliances, all kitchen equipment in any restaurant has to be NSF certified to be able to be, passed by the health department. So I had to fly an inspector out just to get the smoker inspected. He went through, opened it up. I mean, literally, he flew in, opened it up, he looked, and he was like, yeah, you're good. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man.
That easy.
Man, you gotta be kidding. I'm like, man, you gotta be kidding me, man. So that's what we had to do. And that wasn't cheap, because like on top of the roof, you see all that, we call it a spaceship up there on top of the roof, but we had to put that in, that exhaust system. Once we did that, that's when they came back and said, hey, you know what, Mr. Horn, can we talk? And I'm like, let's talk. And they were like, hey, you know what, you can have the smokers outside. And I'm like, wow. And it's just going through that stuff. It's like I got the space in 2019. We didn't open until October of last year. So it's like, do I quit? Do we walk away? Do we move out of Oakland, move out the Bay Area, go somewhere else, go down south, somewhere that they would appreciate what it is that we're doing? But once we educated them on it, you had to persevere. I didn't have that option to walk away from it because I run towards adversity. I embrace it. It builds character. That's how the true measure of a man is revealed when you go through these different challenges. So we did that. They allowed me to have the smoker outside. And Lucille, I used to travel around. I call her Lucille because earlier in the pop-up days, I'd be sitting out on farms and alleys and all kinds of stuff with that smoker and just be sitting with the fire, man, and listening to B.B. King and Lucille. So once I got the smoker, I'm like, it only makes sense to name it Lucille. So that's where Lucille's in there. And then we got the twins in the back, which are twin 500 gallons. And then I have another 1,000 gallon on the big rig. And a buddy of mine, APL, he was just like, hey, you know what? You open up your spot, take it, man. I'm like, it's a big rig. I'm like, you sure, man? He's like, take it, man. He's a really good friend. Really love the guy. He allowed me to take that. Then we got our whole hog cooker. So we do all of our whole animal smoking and everything on it. So we do it proper. I think that's because there was barbecue here in Oakland before we came, and I have much love and respect for those families, but we're doing thousands of pounds of meat a week, and we're serving thousands of guests every single weekend. So it's like when they come, we need to be able to have the capacity to be able to take care of our guests, but our community as well.
Right.
So,
You spoke to adversity, and literally just said, you run to it. So just taking a page from that, like, how does Matt Horn get here? How does Horn barbecue? How did we come to sit here?
Where it all
today?
start?
Yeah. What's the deal?
Man, that's a real good question, man. I mean, I think like, you know, we all face adversity and challenges in life, right? But I just think that, you know, coming out of high school, I played sports. Things didn't work out the way I wanted to in terms of going to the school that I wanted to go to. So, you know, I felt like a way of me disciplining myself. I'd never been to the East Coast ever. And I went to a military academy on the East Coast.
Okay.
And I did that because I wanted discipline. It was, you know, I regretted it after the very first day, because, you know, when you come in, you bring your bags, you have your family and everything, and they're just kind of, they're welcoming you. As soon as your family leave, man, it's a military lifestyle. So I had to deal with that. But just things not working out in life, man. It's like, do you quit or what? You know, and a lot of people give up because what other options you have when it feels like in life things just don't ever work out for you. And I felt that at one point. I was just like, you know, I'm doing things honorably. I'm not trying to cheat anybody or take any shortcuts, and things are just not working out. And then you have to know when to make a pivot, or you know what, I'm gonna do something different. And people may get embarrassed by it or feel like, hey, you know what, I've been working towards this and it's just not working out for me. I'm gonna keep grinding. If it's not working out, it's okay to try to do something different.
So where's the pivot? Where's the pivot? You, prior to Horn Barbecue, you were in another profession.
Oh yeah.
So
I was working, man. I was living in Los Angeles, man, working retail, and just had a vision, just like, you know, I wanted to work with artists, wanted to work with, you know, talented individuals, and I'm just like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna start a company called the 9 Group, and you know, and try my hand at artist management.
okay.
And I started working with artists and trying to get them to understand that, you know, the true wealth in artist management. Here's the thing, a lot of them were like, they have this perception where it's like, hey, I need to be signed to a label. I need to be signed to a label. I need to put out an album. I want to win a Grammy. I want to be on the cover of Double XL. All this
checklist, right?
Right. And like with me, you know, just my whole upbringing, the whole work ethic aspect of it, I'm like, you need to live in the studio. You need to have a catalog. You need to have a substantial offering of who it is and what you are, but not just in the studio with a bunch of different songs. You know, you need to be able to market yourself, advertise yourself. What does your social media look like? This kind of stuff you can't post. This kind of stuff, don't be involved with this. You need to stay focused on that. And, you know, this is what the greats are doing. This is, you know, that was like my thinking. And, you know, at times you'd have people that would be receptive to it, but then there would be pushback as well. And there's nothing wrong with being signed to a label. You know what I mean? It's nothing against that. I was just earlier on preaching independence. So it's like, that's something that's always been at the base and foundation of who I am, is preaching independence. And you know what? The artist management stuff didn't work out. You know, started throwing parties and doing events in Los Angeles, out in Hollywood, and doing that kind of stuff. I was bored by that lifestyle, you know, because we would have events going on and I would be in the office, like looking down on the party, just literally just sitting there and would just be in the office and looking at the time and like, they're enjoying themselves, because I was always thinking about the bigger picture. And I never wanted to allow myself to get caught up or get distracted with the different things that the industry brings to you. So what do you do now? And then all I could do is just work and pay my bills, try to provide for myself, do what a man or woman, you know, do what you're supposed to do as an adult. And I found myself cooking at home a lot more, because I was trying to save money. So while trying to save money, I'm cooking at home, and it was a sense of peace, you know. And at the time, you know, I was dating my wife, so we were dating around that time. And, you know, I cook her things here and there. It wasn't anything special.
Did she like it?
Yeah, we share like, this is trash.
So the first time I did cook for her, yeah, she.
What'd you make?
It was, and here's the thing, it's not the known pitmaster that everybody knows now, but it was just a Weber grill, man. I had some Kingsford charcoal. Thought it would be cool. You know, I'm gonna cook for her. She gonna come over, hang out. You know, that'd be cool, man. Cook her for her and everything. So I like burnt up some ribs and then felt that, hey, you know what? I'm gonna just dump some barbecue sauce all over it. And it's funny, the very first time that I did cook for her, that it was barbecue. So I look at that, because it's like, that's the thing in life. Little things like that, you can see it if your eyes are open to it, to these little things. So yeah, and I asked, and I'm sitting there, I'm eating it, I'm stuffing my mouth. The ribs are tough, and I'm looking over at her, and wondering like, why she wasn't eating her food. And I'm like, hey, is everything good? She's like, yeah, everything's cool. I appreciate you doing. And I was like, no, keep it real with me, because I always want. Keep it straight up with me.
I'm looking at her while you talking right now.
She like, that shit was tough.
She said, you want me to be honest with you? And I said, yeah, be honest with me. And my plate is empty. So I'm eating them tight ribs and everything.
Smashing.
Yeah, right? And she told me, she said, yeah, these ribs aren't good. My father, he does a lot of barbecue and this and that. I don't think they're supposed to be like this. I said, I'm like,
I don't think they're supposed to be like this.
Not like this, right?
Not like this.
So I said, okay.
I don't think it's supposed to be like this.
Well, man, I respect that. Okay. The rest of that day, man, we went on about our day. I couldn't stop thinking about those ribs. And it wasn't the fact that, man, she didn't like my ribs. I think it was just like, what did I do wrong in this situation that I need to address? And that started to take on a life of its own, where I started obsessing about it, where I'm like, what could I have done differently? This is well before I even made the commitment to even cook or to get into this industry.
Or you wasn't even taking notes.
At that time, no, it was just literally just like naturally how I'm just kind of like, what did I do wrong? How can I address
From a
it?
cooking standpoint or just the whole date? Because I
was cooking.
Okay.
The date, I was pretty, with the date, I was just like, everything is cool. She's vibing with me. I'm feeling her. And I'm like, okay, when we're gonna hang out again, that sort of thing. But even after, I walked her to her car and she was gone for the evening. I was at the house. I was thinking about it. I'm like, what did I do wrong with that? And it started there, where I was just like, and I would talk about it all the time. What if I start cooking? What do you think about? What if I want to think about doing something different? Because what I'm doing now, I'm not being fulfilled. It's a what's the purpose in what it is that you do? You have to find purpose in life. We're all present in life and doing, we're doing different things, whatever. Are you being fulfilled? Are you finding a sense of purpose? And it's like, and I asked her and she was just like, hey, you know what? If you want to do it, do it. So I had to try to find a way to get her to even want to go out to Fresno. Because, living out in LA, people always make jokes about, the Fresno and being in the Central Valley. And I'm just like, hey, we're gonna go visit family. And she's like, all right, well, let's do it. That was my excuse, man, to go in my grandmother's backyard. Cause I was like, I knew my grandfather had all these pits, these barbecue pits that was all covered up. It was dust all over everything. I went back there, bought a bunch of meat, and I'm like, I know that they're back here. Went in the back, pulled the cover off of one, man. It was about 150 gallons, so it was probably about like right here with a little offset box. And I opened it up, man, I started grilling, burned up some more ribs, burned some more. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, I was cooking direct fire. And my grandmother's like, I saw your granddaddy like burning off some old wood in that little box right there. And I'm looking, I'm like, let me put this meat on here, let me start my fire in here. When I did that, totally different color, texture, and everything. I documented it. And from that point forward, I made a commitment to, do this deep dive, and I committed myself to it. That's the thing. It's like when you there's a sense of, I don't want to say more so solitude, but isolation that goes on when you're trying to pursue something and really be committed to it. So in that backyard by myself with a cigar, with the blues playing and that whole element of it, then the fire, then the smoke, then those smells, I made a commitment that, hey, I'm gonna commit myself to this. And I spoke that to myself inside, and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. And I started taking extensive notes, extensive R&D back there, measuring airflow, internal temperature of the cooking of the smoke chamber, moisture in the, if it's 75 degrees out right now, and it's a little bit sunny, and we're gonna dial the moisture back in the cooking chamber. Because naturally what you want to do is you want to be able to have that bark set, just different things like that. This was all stuff that was learned in that
attention
backyard.
to detail.
Did you study under anybody?
No.
At no point?
I didn't even go to college.
Did you meet anybody at the time that you thought was doing something really special with it that you were able to take from?
I would say My uncle, he's always loved barbecue and stuff, and he's out in another state and stuff. But I always respected how he was literally like, he never gave up on it. Like, it didn't really take off like that, but he's found success with that. So I always admired his work ethic. But I was very adamant earlier on and just like, how can I create like my own style? Now, when you think now when they talk about, well, Texas style, well, the reason why they call it Texas style, because you have such an abundance of beef in Texas. So then they lead with their barbecue, they lead with the briskets, the beef ribs, and that sort of thing. You go down south, they'll tell you that barbecue is pork. You know, you go to Alabama, lamb and mutton, like, that's barbecue. So there's all these different regions, you know what I mean?
Love lamb.
Lamb is
fire.
amazing, but that's how I made that pivot and committed to it, man. And I was all in. And I think once you become committed or obsessed with what you're pursuing, it's not as easy as to fall off of it, as if like, hey, you know what, this is not working, I want to do something different. Stay committed to it.
We spend a lot of time talking about finding your rhythm, and that's like, you know. So it's interesting how starting where you started to make such a transition that immediately just off of that meeting of, you know, you guys having a date to wondering why, and obviously because it had to do with your work ethic, I'm sure that you were like, yo, I need to find out how I could be better at this, that it turned into an obsession that probably turned into a rhythm that made sense in your life, probably more than anything else, because it wasn't the party scene, it wasn't that, it was being in the backyard, listening to music,
Right.
and figuring out how to make something the best it could be, you know.
We talked about Fresno. I didn't even know y'all knew each other. Man.
Right.
I was tripping out when I seen that picture of you guys. Like, how long have you guys known each other?
About 2003, 2004, around that, yeah.
And you want to talk about
Around that
somebody
time.
dialed in to their purpose?
This guy.
Yeah.
This guy.
But see what's crazy?
No, this guy. Stop playing.
No, listen. Our
Okay.
grandmother's houses are like 5 houses down from each other. We
Right.
never knew each other.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my cousin, I didn't really play football. I played basketball. He was a football player.
Okay.
My cousin was a football
Linebacker,
player.
what?
Wide out. Receiver, man.
For real? My bad.
4-3.
4-3.
4-3. He gonna throw his 40 at you. Yeah, he a real baller.
Okay,
champion, man.
okay.
So my cousin was his quarterback.
Okay.
Wow. And y'all didn't meet until 2000.
No, high school, I mean, look, because, you know, I knew about him and they've always been respected, man, good people. Like, it's like,
I know where we met. Fucking debutante ball. Y'all heard of the debutante ball?
Yeah, I have.
For sure.
wow.
We were
It wasn't
escorts.
It wasn't the debutante.
Wasn't that
The debutante ball.
debutante ball?
Yeah.
We were escorts. My grandfather's ex-wife was like in the sorority that put the thing on.
Jesus.
So me and my little brother just had to be escorts for this ball.
Yeah.
He happened to be there too.
Yeah.
And that was where we first met at the Hinton Center in Fresno, which is on the west side.
Yeah, on the west.
And then it kind of just evolved from there.
So when did you move to LA?
I moved to LA. I moved to Cal State. I went to Cal State Fullerton.
Okay.
So I moved in 2004 when I graduated
This
from high school.
So was the move to LA more? It was more for college than it was actually. You knew you wanted to be in the music industry, or you knew?
1000%. I went to school for kinesiology. I thought I was going to be a physical therapist.
Wait, go again. Say wait, again. One more time.
I went to school for kinesiology, and then I saw blood and almost passed out my freshman
You're like,
year.
this ain't it.
Like, yeah,
Again, no,
this
but
ain't
look, the pivot.
Yeah.
The pivot. The pivot. Like, this isn't for me. This isn't it.
So during college is when you started, you know, because LA is a weird place like that. Like you can legit be like one day doing this, and then you'll meet like 2 people. And next thing you know, you're in a.
Well, see, my older brother, when I was in Fresno, did college radio at Fresno State. So when I was 9, 10 years old, my voice had dropped already. I used to do community theater before that, so I did jazz, tap, ballet. Was in Carousel, To Kill a Mockingbird, Oliver Twist, Ragtime, Cats, Like all of these shows, I love Broadway. So from there, I kind of just, when my voice dropped, I started playing sports because I couldn't be a tenor no more. From
That's
sports,
crazy.
while I was playing sports, I was helping my brother out with his college radio show. That was when Erykah Badu and the Roots came to do the Fresno State Summer Jam.
Got it.
I'm a 10, 11-year-old kid meeting them. Fast forward to me going to Fullerton. I got accused of a shooting my freshman year of college.
Let's stop it. Go ahead
More
now.
to unpack.
Oh, yeah, more to unpack. So what now?
Take a drink.
Take the drink.
Cheers.
Wow.
And let's
Cheers.
salute.
Cheers.
Salute.
Cheers.
Thank you.
All love. Cheers, brother.
Yo,
Dink.
you know what it is.
So I was working in retail
Okay.
at Sears
Okay.
and also doing intramural sports. I was a referee.
Okay.
I always had on a baseball cap. Only white fraternities were active on campus though, because all the black ones pledged. You couldn't be active on campus if you pledged. Reffing these sports. Me and one of the little guys got into a rift. Just so happens that following weekend, there's a shooting at his frat house, right? Who do they say was there with the guy that shot? Me.
Wow.
I had 4 private investigators follow me for 5 months, pulled me out of class. My classmates thought I was a criminal. I didn't go to class. So my radio show and promoting it on my MySpace was a way of me coming out of my shell because I almost moved back home.
Wow.
Wait a second. So you're
Wow.
accused. Is this a murder or just a shooting?
Just shooting. Guy got shot in the stomach. He didn't die.
Okay.
But they did come and get me out of class, tried
Okay.
to get me to take a voice stress test, which they said doesn't stand up in a court of law, but would eliminate me. I would eliminate myself if I took it and passed.
Wow.
So thankfully, I have a dad who worked in the juvenile system in Fresno, came down with me, told the cops I wasn't doing that test. And, you know,
That could have been bad.
yeah, it would have been really bad. And
Wow.
after watching the Ava DuVernay movie about the Central Park 5 and these kids just like, nah, I just want to go home. Like, yeah, I'll tell you, I know I didn't do it. I'll tell you whatever. I felt the same way. Like, bro, please. I wasn't even there. What y'all want? Playing myself. Thankfully, my dad was like, you are not saying a damn thing. And they left me alone after a while. But the way I got out of my hole and figuring, like, everybody's looking at me like I did some dirty shit was music. Through my college radio show. I did an R&B show called Chocolate Sundays. Promoted it through MySpace and eventually found an internship at Interscope. And didn't leave for 10 years.
That's major.
From getting accused of a shooting. Mind you, listen, for those who don't know, we're talking Cal State Fullerton, okay? You might as well have been at Harvard, right? You're in Orange County. You're at Cal State Fullerton.
Racist as shit though.
No, that's what I'm saying. You
Yeah,
might as well
yeah,
have been
super
at, to my point, like, wow. And to turn that into the fuel, well, also, like a lot of us, things happen out of circumstance, right? Like, we're
100%.
we're left to our own vices to deal with our own injuries that we sustain while we're navigating all this. We got to find a way to like get past those moments. And you dove deep inside your radio show, found your voice. In turn, you're at Interscope, and now tell the rest of the story to the people that don't know.
At Interscope, I interned for a guy named Chris Clancy, who went on to sign Tyler, the Creator. But at that time, he was running the Interscope rap department, which was on fire. 50 Cent, Soulja Boy, The Game, Eminem, Dre, you name it.
Yeah.
So transferred into the A&R department, was working as an assistant for this woman named Erica Grayson.
I know Erica.
The whole time,
Erica, I know.
Long hair, red hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She gave me my first job.
Right.
So the whole time, my older brother in Oxnard, who is a program director over like 181 radio stations, is playing the J-Rock music all my life with Lil Wayne while J-Rock signed to Warner Brothers. And my cousin Bo was one of the first rappers Top signed from Compton. Fast forward, Kendrick gets signed. Top's like, that's my marketing guy. Never marketed a fucking album. Like, and that was it. And that same time, I started working with Dom Kennedy, and we formed the OPM company.
All right, so for those who don't know, clear this. Are you a partner in OPM or?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, Dom rarely refers to me as his manager. His business partner.
Got it. But you do manage him as well. Or
I manage the business.
you manage the business.
He manages himself as a man.
It's
for
amazing.
Sure.
As a man,
kinda
I
weird,
love
isn't
that.
But through like all those kind of changes and navigating it, what was it inside of you that, you know, like you said, now you got this job and then it's like, Top's like, oh, you're our marketing guy. And it's like, I don't do marketing. Like, how do you quiet that fear and just say like, yo, I'm gonna figure it out? Because the story I'm hearing is that you always, like all of us, we have to figure it out. But what is that thing inside of you that allows you to keep pushing forward, like during these twists and turns? Like, yo, now I'm doing marketing, I gotta figure this out. Like what is that inside of you, or you know, what's your quiet place that helps you, you know, kind of figure those things out?
I think I would say it was the,
Fire.
and I call it a luxury
The greens are
of not being able to say like, I'm gonna just see what happens. Like, it has to get done. And I took that responsibility on myself early on. And I think a little bit of it also was working at Sears. So when I got there, it was this expert program, right? And I worked in lawn and garden and sporting equipment. So I could sell you a lawnmower, I could sell you a blower, I could sell you a treadmill, elliptical machine. That's about it. Then they started this expert program where I could go learn a little bit more about the major appliances, apply that. Now I'm able to sell the whole sales floor. So that always made me want to learn more, because it wasn't about what it was going to do for somebody else. It was about the information that I was going to gain from it. And I just approached every situation moving forward with that mindset.
Yeah.
What about y'all?
We're talking about you right now.
I mean, I think for me, it's like the same. Like, I moved to LA from Colorado in 2003. We had signed a record deal with Avatar Records, who was distributed to Universal. And we had put out our first vinyl. And this is the back in the days when record pools was everything. They had like Cali Kings, you know, AM and Homicide, all those guys were Cali Kings. Mm-hmm. And so we started getting booked for shows like Mark Love and Icy Ice and all those guys. So we went out to California for vacation, and my cousin and them were already living out there. They had got signed to Sony Rockus like a year before. So, you know, they're like, they were living in Pasadena at the time. So on vacation, we signed a lease and we're like, yo, forget it, we moving out here. And, you know, once you get there, you're like, oh, we got to figure some stuff out. So while we're touring and doing shows, me and my partner are working at Hobby Lobby. You know, we're touring, we're doing shows, we're doing all these things, we're selling records, and we're still working at Hobby Lobby.
That's an ironic place to work.
Right? But we just looked at it, was down the street from the crib. You know, the hours were cool. We didn't know nobody, so, and also too, it's a pride thing. Like, I don't know if I would have been able to do that if I knew a bunch of people, and they're like, you work at Hobby Lobby and you rapping? Like, so, you know, between doing the music and all that, like, somehow we ended up, I know how, like, there was one of the first streetwear stores in, you know, Pasadena, LA, Grade 1, the homies used to own, and they printed our first tour shirts. And Jerry Ming, one of my mentors, one of the owners, he was like, yo, when you guys are on tour, work here. And he took us under his wing. He taught me everything about marketing. He brought me in as, you know, at first I was running the doors of his clubs because he used to be he was like one of the top Asian, if not the top Asian promoters, you know.
He was in the clubs in LA.
Yeah, you know,
Wait, Jerry, who used to have
Yeah.
the bed, the one spot,
Supper Club,
Supper
all that
Club,
stuff.
yes.
Mood, like
yeah.
that Hollywood. But
He was moving.
he brought me in, and I was running the doors for him, but I was meeting so many people through MySpace, through our music, that I was throwing these big parties. So he was like, I want to make you a partner. But, you know, I went from the artist to now I'm marketing. I'm working at a sneaker boutique. That's when I met Nick Diamond and all the Crooks guys. And like, that was like the kind of infusion of streetwear in LA. And, you know, the deal we were in for music was a really bad deal. So as we're trying to get out of our record deal, they're like, we couldn't release music for a year. So then I was just like, I can't sit around. So I just really started focusing on the marketing aspect of it and learning about the business of fashion and, you know, sneakers and all that. And that's kind of, you know, started me with Grey One and then Crooks and Castles and then Young and Reckless and then Puma and that kind of world, you know. So again, like the pivots of just, you know, and I think how you're raised too, you just kind of figure it out, you know, like you take some of those lessons that your family teaches you, whether it's your uncles, your aunts, your family, your mom, your dad. And I think when you're in the kitchen and kind of in the fire all the time, you just figure out a way to make it work. But being able to kind of refocus yourself when things don't go right is something I think a lot of the younger generation and even our generation, I don't think it stops. We have to get better at talking about and expressing, because we're all going through something. It doesn't matter your success level. Business may be amazing, but the crib may be chaos. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, these kind of conversations are important because navigating is such a big thing, but also finding that switch in your passion and your, what do you call it, your heart song that allows you to calm the noise when things are a little chaotic, to say, okay, I got this. You know what I mean? And then the people around you too. You know, it's so important to have those kind of people around you that not only can listen and give you advice, but also too sometimes will just give you a hug and be like, yeah, you doing right. You know what I mean? So
The hug as well as the elbow, like, yo, suck it up. You know, next play.
Yeah.
Next play up, next series of plays, if we want to relate it to sports, you know? And that's like, so I remember I was working for Cameron String, who had an independent record company and publishing company called West Side Independent, before he became the chairman of Warner Brothers Records, and he was the chairman of and CEO of Warner Chappell Publishing simultaneously. So I worked with him for a number of years, and I got to him because I was working for a gentleman named Michelin. So Michelin found, you know, Bruno Mars. He's the guy that really brought Bruno from Hawaii, and I was working for him, and he found me, actually. He came to me like, yo, I heard what you doing, like, because I had a kid who, the year before, literally, this kid named Mark Spitz, this artist from Long Beach. Before that went by Perfect. But his name was, we changed his name to Mark Spitz. And I had someone who invested in me, really believed and invested in me. And so I, in turn, you know, I turned around and believed in Mark, and we ended up cutting like 4 records really quickly. And of those 4 records that we cut, Kanye produced 2 of them. This is Kanye, this is simultaneously, he's doing the first College Dropout album.
Oh, it's like Kanye.
Yes, he's doing, matter of fact, we met him at the W right after the accident. So he's doing College Dropout, he's executive producing Twista's record. So we're at the record plant, funny enough. We knocked 2 records out with him, And then in the next room is MIDI Mafia.
Hold on, you gotta say why the record playing thing is funny enough. Cause you just tried to skim over that while you've been calling me out the hood.
Here you go, but I'm saying we're gonna get to that. Because we're gonna have an episode where we're gonna talk about us. But look, we're gonna skim over that. But so we're at the record plant, and in the next room is MIDI Mafia, who had just done 21 Questions for 50 at the time. So proximity is literally everything, no pun intended.
No pun.
Proximity is everything, and we talked to Bruce Wayne, and that were the two producers named Bruce Wayne and Dirty Swift, and they ended up cutting the record. And then Ye listened to the records, and he was like, yo, I want to sign this kid. G. Roberson comes down to the record plant. He's now head of black music at Atlantic at the time, him and Hip. And they were like, and G's like, yo, to Ye, you can't give him these records. I'm like, nah, homie, we paid for these records in cash. These are our records.
Yeah.
So then G's like, well, we gotta sign them, you know what I mean? And we ended up, Ye also actually ended up calling Twista and Ross Stewart, his manager in Chicago, and was like, yo, Mark and them are gonna come there. They got a record that I produced on them that Twista should get on, so Twista got on the record. So like, we have no deal. We have no label, no nothing. Call up an independent radio promoter. I forgot who plugged me with them, but he goes by the name of Buys One. He's in LA. OG. So Gabe buys the record. And 2 nights later, he was like, yo, listen to the radio. And Felly must have played that shit for like 12 minutes straight. So we went from being some kids who are living in a house in Long Beach with a bunch of roommates and girls basically living up on, you know what I mean? Like, we were in the house because Mark's girl rented a room in the house, and then the girl who was renting the rooms, we were just all staying there, right? So long story short, after Felly plays the record, everybody called. It was like, 3H. 3H is like, hey.
I remember 3H.
He's like,
bling bling when we were still in high school.
Shout out to 3H.
3H. Joe.
Jack Skills, who was like my security at the time, like grew up with him.
Yeah, so 3H.
What's his name?
Archie Bunkers.
Yo, Archie's my brother, the DJ. Since I was at Joe crazy. but who's now killing it right now? Who was signed to Archie? Freddie. So
yes.
I remember
Freddie don't like to talk about that.
Freddie was signed at 3H.
Freddie gave me a mixtape when we were like, I was like,
you gonna
13,
get us killed.
What?
I'm not gonna say his name no more.
No, we're not saying Freddie's name.
He doesn't like to talk about being signed to them at that time.
Yeah, so he was.
Or the Jeezy
we have a good relationship.
I do have a great one with them.
So anyway, 3H calls, and then he's working at Capitol, and Ron Lafitte and all of them call, and then Ron Lafitte introduces us to Theo Sotomayor and says, hey, he should be your attorney, thinking Theo's just going to, hand him the deal. Theo was like, oh no, you don't take your foot off the brake, off the gas. No, we accelerate and let him come with a deal. And we ended up going to see everybody. I mean, Chris Lighty was at Jive at the time. Yeah, rest in peace, Chris and Jeff. And that's how I met John Monopoly. John Monopoly was working with Chris and Dave and Barry Weiss and I think Peter, what's Peter's last name? I can't think of his name right now, but we went to go see everybody. And I think at the time, Def Jam, we went to go see Tina and this and that and the third. And we ultimately ended up doing a deal with Larry Jackson and J Records and Clive, because Larry had an artist out here that I was becoming involved with, and that's how he knew about me. And again, one thing led to another. But when all that sort of the Spitz thing didn't really grow, like we all take artists and we think this is the one. We're gonna be, collecting the Grammys and the billboards and everything's gonna come. It didn't happen. And Cameron came to me and said, I think you could be a publisher, and you definitely are an exec, and you just definitely have great instincts. And then I was working for him, and that was, we did that for a couple of years, and then he ended up taking a job as the chairman at Warner. And I wasn't going with him because we had actually had a little falling out like people do, and was like, yo, I was like, you're not allowing me to, at the time you think, you're not allowing me to grow. You're not allowing me to exercise everything that I have within me. I don't think this is the place for me. And I'm bringing you things and you don't get it. And you're trying to tell me about what the culture is. And I know what the culture is. But he also was imparting a number of jewels on me that now, obviously, in the later years, you begin to see like, oh, that was, just things about artists and just things about how deals and just people, like how things move along, you know what I'm saying? How things progress if you allow them to, if you're open. And long story short, like I said, again, I ended up doing that, and then started helping a number of artists getting looks at labels, and then L.A. Reid and Tricky Stewart came calling because of a mutual friend, Zach Katz, was like, you should know this kid. And that was it. That was like my first like corporate gig was that. And then obviously a couple of years later worked for Scooter, and now we, have a label together with our partner, Community Culture. But I say all that to say, like, I think the thing that has served me well is just without like patting, just an uncanny ability to just pull myself up off of the turf, so to speak, right? And get to the next play. And be like, I'm gonna get closer, and this year I'm gonna get closer, and next year I'm gonna get closer, and I'm going to win the championship. I'm going to hoist the Lombardi. Maybe I didn't do it like, if we're making sports analogies, I didn't do it like Pat Mahomes in 2 or 3 years, but I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it, and when I get a hold of it, I'm not going to let it go for a long time. Cherry Cola, that Bud Light Seltzer, hard soda.
Yep.
Pre-game ritual.
That's your one, huh?
That's my thing. Whether I'm going to the game or I'm going to barbecue with the fam, that is a necessity.
All right. I got to try that one. But for me, though, it's from the retro tie-dye variety pack, the cherry limeade. Stop playing with me. It's sweet. Got the cherry taste. Got a little bit of hint of the lime, too. Just all the things that I like. We going to the festival. I'm popping open the trunk. The best part about it is there's no beer in it. I'm not a beer drinker, so for me, it works out perfectly. Just a great tasting seltzer. A bunch of flavors. They got the classic cola. They got the cherry cola, the orange soda, the citrus soda. For me, it's the citrus soda. But which one you rocking with?
Man, it's a classic cola. I actually like to use it as a mixer, especially when I'm out with the homies in the RVs on the beach during the summer.
That's what's up. That sounds like a real summertime vibe. With the Bud Light Seltzer hard soda, in the summertime, for me, it's barbecuing and watching the fight. Best ways for me to enjoy and kick back and have a good time.
That's right. To find a retailer who delivers right to your door, head over to budlight.com to learn more. Bud Light Seltzer, the loudest flavors ever. Enjoy responsibly. Messaging for the 21 and over. So that served me well, and I think that's the other thing is about this table that we're sitting at right now is the uncanny ability to just keep going. I think you kind of reinvented yourself like a million times, and you're young, and young as fucking this thing, but just, you know what I mean? Like, again, our uncanny ability to believe and bet on ourselves and hold dear to the things that mean everything to us, right? And not like, that are integral to us, and not sway. No matter what, I'm not swinging. I'm going this way. You know what I mean? For better, for worse. And that's what I think you need. I think you need in this business a thick skin. Just in life, you need thick skin, and you need to stand on something. You gotta be tethered to something, because that's ultimately what gets you to the next place, right? You gotta be tethered. There's gotta be something that wakes you up every day. So
Well, I think it's interesting because I'm sitting here like with amazing individuals, and like so many people in the work that we do are defined by what they do and not who they are. And I think that's a lot of the difference when we talk about purpose and like the reasons why we're doing this. And even like, I'd be lying if I said I was able to pull myself back up. It's my wife, it's my brothers, it's my dad, and me thinking of the legacy of my grandfather. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's not just me. I'd be lying if I said it was me for sure.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, these two, this has been sort of, I think for all of us, obviously the pandemic and different things, and I'm sure you could speak to this too. This has been a bit of a trying time for us all, right? So like, we've needed people more than ever to pour into us, even when they don't know they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes a conversation or a not conversation with you, or arguing. So we have a mutual dear friend who's in here. Quadri, who can't see right now. And we, like, through him, he's helped the sweet life. He's helped navigate this as much as anybody. But these three guys for me this year during this time, besides my family and my kids and just me again being tethered to art and culture and just having a lust for life, these guys lately have really been, even when they don't know it, I'm just like, yo man, I'm so thankful for you guys. Because we need that. And that's the other thing, man, that helps us, that we gotta learn to talk about that. We gotta learn to say, right? Like, I need you today.
Well, it's interesting because about these conversations, like we did last week with Terrence or whatnot, but like, life is moments. They're really, you look at all these things and it's quickly happened, so, like, over this year, it's like all the changes that happened. Or looking at your life like, yo, I'm not gonna be able to do what I really wanted to do, maybe ever, because of this happening. You had to find a way to find some sort of safety in something or create a new idea. And I think it was kind of an amazing thing because it made us look at things that work so easy. So if we always worked at something that made us money or did whatever, and that all of a sudden doesn't look like that could be the path, we had to change our mindset a little bit. We still had hope in what we were doing, but we had to change our mindset and what else do I have to offer? Do you know what I mean? And having support is amazing, right? And that's like what you were talking about. Like that is, when you see people that don't have anything and they create something with actually really nothing, that's an amazing thing, you know what I mean? I always felt very lucky that I had support in a large way from amazing people that have done amazing things, even without, doesn't even have to be the support of, I'm with you every day and I'm doing this with you. It's the fact that I have the support of knowing that you've done something amazing and it's possible, right? I think that what is kind of what I know is amazing about some of these conversations and even listening, and I wanted to spend most of the time just listening because in awe of both of you. And it's like when you hear of everyone's journey and understand that I've always been somebody that's been probably more interested in other people than myself. I've always been really interested in how people have created and what they do to get to that space. And that's why when we really got into the conversation of what this was before Malik and Quadri and Chief asking me to be involved, I wanted to know what the real goal was. And when we got into it, it really made sense to me. Because I understand that in all kinds of ways, like learning to find out what your specific rhythm is that makes you feel whole, right? And those things change throughout your entire life. What you realize is what became your major passion in life could have been this, and it turns into something magnificent, but it could also change, and you could also do something that else, like whatever it is that gets that energy out. And when you realize that energy is what gives you life, to me, that is what the conversations are, because whatever that feeling is of doing something, that you receive that kind of energy back, that's the goal.
Yeah.
you may not think you can find it in other places because you think this is all I can do, and I'm really good at it. And I think that when we get really good at something, it's amazing to perfect it.
Mm-hmm.
And in time, in other moments, you may find something else, you know?
Yeah.
And hopefully you focus on it just as well as you did the thing that succeeded, you know?
Yeah.
So that to me is like, you know, rather going into things that I've achieved in, that I feel like I've done well in, and I feel like I've really worked hard since I was really young and done some things that I think are special, interesting. But this last year, I've maneuvered a lot of different things, but all the same respect, it was about things I was passionate about and I focused on. It was like I became obsessed over those pieces. And the fulfillment in those moments when I was on the phone, couldn't leave my house, and I'm talking to people in London and UK trying to figure out, whatever that energy was that I was getting, I was like, it didn't matter if I sold it or if I actually got what I was trying to do. If I'm selling a painting, if I'm doing, it was the energy, right? It's that energy that that passionate moment, and then you give to everybody else that same passion. The people around you start feeling that same energy. They're like, we get to work, we can all do this, you know?
But before you got to that energy, right, from receiving it from other people, where was the like click in like, and was it you finding that you had the energy within yourself first? Or was it like this external energy that you were receiving that renewed you?
I always felt like I had an energy in myself. Since I was little, I always felt like I had that, you know? But I also had a lot of amazing people around me where nothing seemed impossible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually, you know, growing up, after I got to a certain age, I was like, it's not actually possible. You can't really do all those things at the same time. Because that's not, you know, his mom's like, you do it all. You can be, I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, it's a sweet concept. It's physically impossible. I mean, maybe it's not, it seems impossible. But like the idea of it, you know, being able to dream like that, you know, because things fall short. There's a lot of things we grew up wanting to do and love to do. When you get focused, some of those fall to the wayside or whatever, however it happens. And, but they're not gone, right? And if you're passionate, you're passionate. You'll find whichever one's the most important. I realized that, yes, I know I'm a talent and I can create and I can act and I can sing and I can do certain things. But I feel like my strongest ability is to see others in a certain kind of way. Like I really, when I see talent or it makes, I'm way more excited about that than excited about what I can do. You know what I mean? And I like seeing somebody that is creating something that I didn't see as even an option of creating, you know? And when you start seeing what's open to us now because of a lot of things that we didn't have before. No, I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater, but I don't even know if I had an opportunity to be a hater. I grew up where I was like sitting around Stevie Wonder and like people like that, and I was like, this shit's great. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I wasn't trying to be better than any of them. I was just like, yo, I want to be around these people.
Yeah.
So I think when you're not trying to beat somebody, you're not trying to, I mean, I want to be the best, of course, at things that I have, but there's enough room for things. There's so many people that are doing things that I could never imagine doing. That they weren't, by the way, there weren't even a lane for what they're doing now. So when you see things that are created by people and there was no blueprint for that. With all that's been done in the world, the fact that right now somebody young can come up with an idea that's never really been done before and fit their culture and fit the world they're living in and the space and the people and the families that are living in, that is amazing. Yeah. Like you just
even if you don't fucking like it, you gotta give it up.
You can't, you know what I'm saying?
You gotta give it up or you're a hater.
There was nobody else to say like, yo, you should, like, no, because it's not a thing.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And so when you've done that to me is exciting. You know what I mean? That's like,
yes.
Like just being able, like not saying it's just, but like being a good actor, being able to create film, doing things like that. People have done these things. People have been amazing singers. Not saying it's not a great thing. When somebody comes up with something, you're like, yo, where? drop that on you. You know what I mean? Like, cause that's an amazing, that's a thought from some young man or even an older person that was like, yo, who gave you that vision of something that I could never have thought of? That to me is so unbelievably exciting.
And that's, again,
Yes.
why we're sitting here with you, both of you, but you, like, I love to tell, to be able to tell people that look like me things like this. And what I would say to you is, I'm so glad you didn't fold into yourself and you didn't fold, and that we're sitting here and that you took something that people, you know, it's very disposable. You know, it's like, oh, mixed barbecue. You know what I mean? There's a million of them. No, bro, you got a Michelin star. And you look like us. You look like me. And you're from a community somewhere that's similar to the one that I came up in, whether it's Fresno, Long Beach, Colorado, wherever. The community, there's somewhere, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, keep fucking going.
Definitely.
Keep going. Let us be a part of it.
Of course.
What's next?
What's next? What we doing? What you doing?
I mean, to your point,
Cowbird.
my brother said, yeah. I mean, we got Cowbird this year. We just got our permits for Cowbird after 3 months of waiting on that. So, Cowbird will open right up the street, and then we have a.
Sorry, one thing, because I was gonna ask you earlier. No, because it's important, or I forget. Because the way you said the 3 months lets me know, is that like normal, or do they give you? Is there a little bit more red tape for you? Let's keep it G.
To be completely honest, maybe there was definitely with Horn, for the simple fact that, you got to think about it. This is our first restaurant. This is our flagship location. Prior to this, doing pop-ups all across the country, right? And our pop-ups is what landed me on, like, they got me in the eyes of the press and nationally recognized, because they were just like, okay, how is this guy? It comes from cooking his grandma's backyard, bringing out, 400, 500 guests whenever he does his pop-ups. All over the place. And then do it in 2016, then 2017, then 28. Each year it's gotten bigger and bigger, where I had to do it at the airplane hangar at Hangar 1 Distillery. And I love the people at Hangar 1 because they allowed me to set it's a table this big, but then you got 1,000 people in line. And at that point, that's when I looked at my wife. I'm just like, we don't need to do any more pop-ups. We need to find a break. Yeah, because you start bringing out that many people, then let's just find a brick and mortar sale location. But I think that with us, it being our first restaurant, and having to get the mayor involved and people from so many different departments within the city and the county, Alameda County, the fire chief, and literally get them to sit. Literally, we had to sit and have a board meeting about the smokers. And while we were sitting in there, we were like, hey, we're going to persevere. But I was thinking about that. It's just a barbecue restaurant opening in an underserved community. I mean, if you think about it, you look down Mandela, this is, we're here, we're in an industrial area. That's a chocolate factory right there. To the left of us is a recycling plant. But if you go right up the street, you got a lot of brothers and sisters that don't have housing. That's having a hard time, and couldn't figure out how to get back up. It's a tents all over. It's just, so for us to face that adversity just to try to open up, it made me realize that the thing that I was fighting for, there was a purpose for that, And just like my brother was talking about and what you guys were all saying, it's just like, if you think about it, and you're like, man, I appreciate you not folding. It's like when you have a foundation, right, and you're building something, what is that foundation built off of? What's the substance of it? What is the character of which, who's building that foundation? So we already known and made up our mind that we want to serve our people, but then we want people that look like us to see that there is another option. You can build it if you can vision it. And that was the thing that was really driving me. I'm like, I don't have no choice to quit. And I remember I think it was, I don't know, maybe Forbes or CNBC. And I was having a conversation.
That was
One of them.
Slid
One of
in
them.
there,
No, I'm just.
I don't remember.
It was somebody. It was somebody.
If you can't focus up.
No, it was.
Can't focus up on the Forbes.
It was Rob Report.
It was a Rob report. I'm sorry.
No, it was after we had wrapped up the interview. She literally was just like, she was asking like, you know, what's next, or why are you doing this, and you know, just all this different stuff. And I'm like, I do this for our people because it's important to see what's possible, but then also we have to persevere because our people have endured much worse than me being held up on my smokers and being held up for a year. So if it takes a year, if it takes another year, then that's just what it's gonna, you know, that's just what it's gonna take. And that's why we had to keep pushing forward. And we didn't have no choice because we can't quit, because I'm standing on the shoulders of the men and women that came before me to lay the foundation for me. All the old black women and black men that were pit masters that cooked barbecue, their whole life was never recognized. They didn't get the recognition that I did. So I have to honor them with, you know, with everything that I do.
So I want to ask y'all a question.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's a big difference, right? When people hear these conversations and these stories, it's one thing to be like, I want to do exactly what they did. And it's another thing, which is what I hear from each one of y'all to say, I want to be a pioneer and do something different. Mm-hmm. So if you could offer any words of advice, and I'm asking everybody, to anybody to not necessarily emulate what your path has been, but how have you made your path yours and pioneered your own way as opposed to trying to follow somebody else's footsteps?
Sheesh.
Well, you don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? So there's barbecue. There's over 1,000 barbecue joints in Kansas City. You go out to Texas, same thing. Down south, there's barbecue restaurants all over this world, all over the country, right? So it's not trying to, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. What you want to do is you want to refine it, but then also put your touch on it and maybe go in a different direction. It's like we were having this conversation where like you look at Microsoft, Dell, Apple, you look at these different companies, and Apple has found a way to be able to define, you know, to literally just define like their lane because they understand their purpose versus just focusing on a product. So like with Horn Barbecue, we want to make the best barbecue that we could possibly make. There is no article or no publication where I'm like, hey, I'm the best at what I do. The thing is, each day I try to make this the best that I can make it, but then what other approach can I take? You know, with the branding, the logo, the way that the restaurant looks, the way that the interior of the restaurant looks. How are we branding and telling those stories? I just try to go like in a different direction, just add like a different touch to it, like my own personal touch, because I'm very fascinated with design and branding and the way that the story's being told, and you know, so great visuals, great photography, you know, just stuff like that. So I think that's it, because there's a lot of barbecue restaurants, people are tired, man. They're just trying to make money. They want to get out of there, you know. As soon as you clock in, they're wondering, when is it time for me to go home? You know, that sort of thing. And that attitude is reflected in their product. So there's some people that's like, well, you know, I've been going to this barbecue restaurant my whole life here in Oakland. That's fine, but it's like the thing about it is, do they have the same love and attention to detail that we're pouring into our product? There's a reason why people are lined up.
Do you think the reason that you're able to give the attention to detail, the love that you talk about, because of what goes on? Because I'm just a big believer in like what's happening outside of the eyes of people, right? Like if you're playing sports, you're conditioning. You know, if you're boxing, right? You're doing the mitt work, you're running, taking care of your body. You're not in the club, blah, blah, blah. Floyd Mayweather, right? So is it because of that type of like at home, like what's home life like you? What are the things that are happening in the home that then you just come and Because it has to. There's no separation. Yeah.
It is. Preparation.
Well, I mean, also like just from a love standpoint, there's got to be love at home for him
Bruh, the first time this man made her rib, she told him that was not it.
Garbage.
If
So
that ain't
there's-
love,
That's
like-
there we go. But I just want to, you know what I'm saying?
Right?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, then you think about it, okay. There was
So
other
the
reasons.
integrity.
I married her. Yeah, well, that's the thing. She was transparent.
There's integrity early.
Transparency.
Yeah.
Transparency with our product, you know, and the work that's done behind the scene. No corners are cut. That's the thing. What do you? I say this all the time to my team that the most important part of a fence is not the front of it, but behind the fence. The reason being is because of what goes on behind that fence. It's not always about what everybody can see. So even after we leave the restaurant, and you know, we'll have 4 concepts open this year. Next year, another 5, and those are just restaurant concepts. So when we leave this restaurant, the work still continues. There's a compromise and a sacrifice that that has to be made in order to create what people say is success. Everybody's definition of success is different. Some of it is monetary. Some people just have a healthy family, healthy kids, just to be healthy in life. We find success there, but it's like when we go home, what's the sacrifice in that? I have to be a father, a husband, and I spend time with my kids, I spend time with my wife. But sometimes she doesn't always, she literally just said it not too long ago. I'm tired of talking about business all the time. I'm going upstairs. And it's like, that's the thing where it's like, I can't get that off of me.
You know what's interesting though, is what you were saying about and then there's been a lot of conversation so far, and everything goes back to branding, right? Everybody in this space has talked about branding. That's what has been the conversation in a lot of senses. Because when you end up branding making it a brand, right? It can last without this space. So that's where business becomes something where you created something that's been given to you out of love, spreads on. It was given to you in the sense that when you met the woman of your life and all these things that she told you she didn't like it, and it got you to get to this mindset, to get you this that's happening. Now you created something that was a visual that you had, and it became a brand. Now that brand can live on. Brands, I feel like, is the concept that we keep getting back to. It's like, with anything else, even if you're an artist at a certain point, the goal is that the music is the thing that gets people to love you, but then you are the brand. That your name is the brand, that your music and your who you are lives on. Yeah. Not many people have that forever. A brand, which I don't think for a long time we didn't have in the same senses, or we weren't creating that in the space that we're doing now. But you're creating a brand. You're creating a name. There's an understanding of what you're doing is at a high level. No matter what area you make it in, whatever it is, you are a brand. Horn is a brand, right? So that is where it lives on. And then maybe at some point you don't have to talk about the business anymore, because the business just goes, and you can just focus on the love and life that you want. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you want to keep working on that. That's not wrong either. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, we actually enjoy talking about business. Me and my mother and everything, and she's been doing it for 70-some years. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you'll always enjoy that. But that's when, like, when everyone's talking and randomly, like, when then I got into trying to figure out the brand. Because that's when we last, in a sense that it starts from a loving, small home life of things that we loved and made us excited in the backyard, and you know what I'm saying? After even what you went through, and then finding your way out, and then, focusing on what that brand was, that's where that thing becomes longevity, right? Yeah. For all of us, so I think that's, to me, that's where all of a sudden it finds its own rhythm. It's not our rhythm anymore. We created the rhythm, and the rhythm now goes.
Yeah. And that's why you can do things like Archie is Archie, and then there's OPM, and then proximity. But then you could tell somebody, I got this thing, proximity, and they've already like, oh, whatever you're doing, I'm supporting. It's because you yourself as an individual and as a brand have created a path and an integrity that people are like, I buy into him, so whatever falls underneath that, I'll take it. You can go open up, anything that falls under a restaurant or food, and people are gonna be like, I'm in there because of what he created at Horn and his integrity and what he
Brand
does.
integrity.
But by the way, that's not even that is exactly what it is. And what's interesting, it reminds you that like once you've created a brand, you become a brand. Right? So now you can create other brands just off the fact that you've created a proven concept. So now you're a brand as a human. You know what I'm saying? Like as a human you become, which is actually almost better than even a concept of a restaurant or a thing. It's like when you actually as a human become a brand, it could tie to anything. It could tie to hotels. It could tie to because that's when what comes from here from you is a proven concept. Doesn't have to be a specific thing. You are a proven concept. What you believe in is a proven concept. And that's where you can find funding and do all kinds of things. It's
Have y'all read the 22 Immutable Laws of Branding?
Rants.
Have you read that?
1,500 or nothing.
Okay, all right. Nip.
Yeah,
Rest
no,
in
he
peace.
Nip told him. Yeah, no, he
Big
when
Bob,
he, yeah.
And
Brand engine.
And that's where it's like, there's no rules to being a pit master. There's no rules to being a rapper or a singer or an artist or an A&R, but there are rules to building a brand. Favorable publicity, community, like all of these things build a brand. And I think, go ahead.
It's an interesting story with Nip. I met Nip 2012. I was working at Reckless. And he was the first person I did a project with when I was over there. And I remember talking to him and faxing everybody, and he's like, yo, we're gonna do these collabs. Well, I wanna sell them at $100. The skateboards at this, the Letterman jackets at this, and I'm thinking like, how are we gonna do this? Because Young and Reckless, the clothing was.
Our shit don't even cost that much.
No, it's like, you're talking about $24 t-shirts. But we did it and it was successful, and that's because his brand integrity, and he put his foot in the ground and said, this is what we're building. It might be 5 years from now, but he knew exactly where he wanted to take it.
Drama?
And he wasn't gonna sacrifice,
Nipsey.
whether at the time price point or whatever, to get that made, because it compromises his brand. So I always tell people it may take you longer to get to where you need to be, but if you have a solid foundation and a solid outlook of where you want to be even in 10 years, nothing can shake that.
I'll tell you this, bro. When Dom and I shipped the Get Home Safely album by hand to every Best Buy store, wrong, right? Went and found our own manufacturer, made the albums, everything. The same people that made our CDs and our product and our vinyl made the $100 Nip album. You know what I'm saying? We shared resources straight out of Baldwin Park, and it was like, bro, you can't.
Yeah.
What else are we supposed to do? Like, that's what we do this for, is to be able to see visions come to life.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't need nothing else.
Yeah.
Same with us with this. Like when me and Chief started talking about this like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was like, we're gonna do a podcast.
We were gonna just talk about like
Just
sports and music, like the typical, but
I'm not shitting on the typical. I'm just saying,
we still talk about that.
Just wanted to elevate the
A little more
conversation.
substance.
Just wanted to elevate it just a little bit.
I've been talking about doing something like this, and I was like, I do not have the bandwidth and time to try to figure this fuck out. Like, I still don't.
So
I do not at all. Like, if there's no way right now that it makes sense in my brain. But the thing about it was because of Quadri, my relationship with Malik and Chief, we actually have really amazing relationships. But what they were trying to create, I was like, oh, you know what? I could be helpful in this, because not only do I know it's important, but I think it's how we all live our lives. Everybody I know. And from there's not a person I know that I'm inspired by that is not dealing with the same thing. We all deal with it on a daily basis. And when the end of the day of all the chaos and people come to my house and we sit in front of the house, we have conversations from some of the most amazing people of all time, it's really just about this.
The human condition.
And we're all dealing with the same stuff. It's also just juggling life and family life and
Bruh.
being married and loving and being there as much as possible, but creating your space. Also making sure that you're with your children as much as possible, and you would like to be even more, even though you know you're doing as much as possible. And then also being in your rhythm where you're doing what you need to be doing so that they can have the life that they want to have later on, right? So it's like, and there's not one person, not from any walk of life, not even somebody that I've known that's made hundreds to billions of dollars. They're having the same conversation. It's still the same stress.
Yeah.
And it's because they and it's consistently maneuvering to get on rhythm.
Yeah.
Like to a certain extent, some of the people I talk to, they've gone to levels that are astronomical, finding out exactly how much time they need to sleep, exactly where their body is and what they eat in their gut to get to where they're working at their peak excellence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's how serious it gets to. But
That's a luxury in itself. Though.
That's a luxury. But that is where people go in the sense of
Yeah.
finding their rhythm. And if you can find your rhythm where we are now, or even, whatever space that is, it's amazing. And I think the rhythm, beyond all those things, and I do think those things are important, like health, but I think it's finding your rhythm in love. And I think it's finding your rhythm in love is music, love is passion, love is all the things. If you're not, it may sound crazy to say, but like, I believe if you do what you love, money will follow. I do believe that.
I agree.
Never chase
I'm sure it's easier said than done, but
Chase
I do
history.
believe that.
Never tell people, never chase money.
Yeah.
bro.
Chase
The
history.
money, even with this, money was never the focus of this. We lost money that whole first year doing that farmer's market.
Sure.
And then the next time, was out 5 hours trying to sell my food. Nobody came. My wife was pregnant. We were in a little black tent. She left. I stayed out there another few hours. I'm like, I'm gonna sell some of this barbecue. One person came, and just to save embarrassment of bringing all this food back, because we were staying at her parents' house at the time. We moved from LA. I went over to the dope house and put my table out in the front and cut it up and served it to the people out there, man, brothers and sisters out there tweaking and whatever. But I just want to serve people, serve our people. So it's like money was never like, man, I'm gonna get rich doing it. It wasn't that. When you start building that brand, it comes.
Honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head because it comes before that, and when you buy into understanding that we are all servants. You know what I'm saying? Like once we understand the service and the
Stewardship.
yes,
They
like
say,
that,
in
everything
service
else.
or in love.
Yeah.
Yes, wherever you are.
I am getting a lesson in stewardship right now with my
Steward,
son.
it'll come. If you build it, and the foundation is sound, and it's on a foundation that's built off of integrity, and there's substance behind that, the money will come. It will come, and opportunities will come, and then people want to finance your project. Because just like my brother was saying, when you create a brand and you stand behind that, and people know that there's brand value and brand equity, and they know.
That's it.
Just like we open up a lemonade spot. Hey man, what chef open up a lemonade spot for it? You open it up, but people gonna rock with it because they know
That's
you
all that
stand
matters.
behind
It's
it.
gonna be fire.
Where's these lemons coming from?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Are these you grilling these lemons?
They come for something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So Archie, what's now and what's next?
That's what I was going to ask.
In
What's
terms
now?
of what?
You, Archie Davis. You
Man.
got 6 course.
Bro, it's crazy because we talking about the human experience. Man, it's been the craziest year of my life. I lost my dad in March.
I'm sorry.
Won an Oscar in April.
For what?
Judas and the Black Messiah, the Her song. for the movie.
Charles King, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Ryan Coogler and Shaka, yep. So I executive music produced the film with Ryan. I oversee music with Ludwig for Coog's company.
Oh, right.
So I did the soundtrack through my label. Lost my grandfather a month after we won the Oscar. But in the meantime, found out my wife was pregnant. You know what I'm saying? And got renewed with a little boy. So
What was that?
I found out 3 days before my dad's service.
Oh, wow.
Little boy.
Little boy.
Born how old?
She's due December 9th. Not even here yet.
Their
I
anniversary
just had
tomorrow.
a 1 year old. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
Boy, girl.
Me, October 29th.
Okay.
Be a year. Boy, too.
Dope.
Nice.
Ziggy Blue. Crazy.
Ziggy Blue.
Nice.
Yeah, man. And that, you know, what's next for me is that. Period. Like everything else, I'm fortunate enough to work with people that believe in my vision and I'm able to align with theirs. But what's next is fatherhood. Everything else is secondary.
That's
like,
so dope. But you lay the groundwork so that you can really sit in that moment. Because as a, you know, my daughter will be 7 on the 28th.
My daughter's 6, yeah.
I'm so happy that I'm able to now, I've laid enough groundwork to where I can sit in that moment and watch her grow up. And the importance of the work coming secondary. Like you still have to intertwine some things, but I told myself I'm not missing no birthdays, I'm not missing those kind, you know, you don't want to miss out on those things. And sometimes when you're chasing, you forget the thing that you should be chasing. There's a lot of times right in front of you.
yep.
You know what I mean? So when you lay that groundwork, man, and you can sit back and like you said, the fatherhood now is that moment, because I think that's probably the biggest teaching moment. Like you're learning something new every day watching your kids, how to navigate, you're learning your patience, you're learning, you know, sometimes I'll say some stuff in teaching moments and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cold. You know what I mean? But then you start thinking of your parents or your uncles or, you know, a family friend that poured into you, and you know, you don't think those things stick with you until you're in it and you're like, wow, you know what I mean? So I'm
Bro.
excited for you, man.
Thank you.
That's
The
like,
first one?
excited.
First one.
Oh yeah.
First one.
Well,
and
enjoy.
the first boy. First little boy born.
You're not gonna sleep.
enjoy.
You know what, Steve Berman, who was like the co-chair at Interscope,
Oh yes.
before I left there, he gave me some advice. And I wasn't thinking about kids yet or anything. But I just told him, he was like, what's success to you? And I was like, I just want to take my kids to school. And he was like, I'm going to tell you, there's 2 types of balls in this world. There's glass ones and rubber ones. The glass ones are the recitals, the baseball games, everything, the birthdays.
Yeah, those things.
The rubber ones, meetings, dinner,
Yeah.
show, those bounce. The other ones break. Pick the right one.
I'll tell you something though, because I think that there's a lot of like fear in, like, if I don't do this part, they're not gonna know that they're loved. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Speak on it.
at the moment when I was growing up, I never felt like my mother wasn't there. She probably was at one of the heights of her career, and so she was flying out all the time, and my mom would take the Concorde to London and get a Concorde back that same night after her show and take us to school in the morning. And a lot of times that wouldn't happen. And we had drivers and people and things like that were doing that. And the things about it was I never felt like my mom wasn't there. She made it very sure we knew she was there. Do you know what I mean? And that just had to do with time. So it's like sometimes it's like, but I also got to see somebody that I was like, wow, what an amazing human being, right? So I was in awe at her work ethic. She wasn't always, she was there a lot. She made a point of that. It was very important, and if she couldn't be there, we were gonna be with her. We were gonna go on tour with her, we were gonna figure it out. But we never felt like our mom wasn't there. You know what I mean? And my mom tried to explain to me, because when I was working, I was shooting in Atlanta or whatever, and I was like depressed, because I was like, you know, I'm not there right now, you know, and I'm like, I feel like I'm not there. I feel like I'm not there enough. And she's like, you have FaceTime now. I didn't even have FaceTime. But she was like, also, it's when you spend time with them that you're present.
Yes, yes.
No.
That's what they know. You know, they know when you're present. If you're there and you're not there, you're not there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I do think growing up, you realize when you're loved. I don't think we're so specific. Other parents and other people judge when they don't see you at certain things or certain stuff, or oh, he wasn't, like that kind of thing. But the kids, they know when they're loved.
Yeah.
You know, and they also want to see you win because it makes them want to win.
That's true.
I was inspired by my parents. You know what I mean? I didn't even recognize how much. How my dad was going. My dad was climbing Mount Everest and doing things. You know what I mean? But I thought that was really fucking cool. And then when I did see him, it was great.
Yeah.
You know? But I think other kids, other people make the child feel like, why isn't he here? Or why isn't someone there? I think when you're there, give the most love as possible. But also create the world that you feel like you're supposed to create, because you want them to also want to create the world they want to create. You know?
Right.
And I think that's
It's a huge gift.
I'm telling
you,
you,
huge gift.
it's amazing.
It is.
It's amazing to be able to tell the story of your parents and be like, wow, I'm proud of those people, you know? Even if it was just them being great parents, that's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough, absolutely. That's more than enough, being great parents. But I think you could actually do both.
Yeah.
I think you could be great parents and you could be there.
It's amazing.
You know?
My testimony at my dad's service in March, because I got uncles that don't speak to some of their kids. I don't feel like there was an emotion left undone when my dad left this earth. I feel like we felt everything we were supposed to feel, and I think that's the presence that you're talking about. I was prepared to be a man, you know what I'm saying, to raise a child, and all I told my uncles and my family members with issues is y'all still got time. You still have time.
Yep. Made it right.
It's kind of just all different, right? When
It
you really
is.
look at it,
It is.
it's like everybody finds their way to do what they
That's
do
it.
best.
You know,
And they're trying to deal with the daily of this human experience that we talking about the same way we are.
They're coming from the same, they're probably struggling, trying to figure out how to give as much love as possible, not knowing how to get love,
Or not knowing if they ever received it. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, you talk about you were talking earlier, you made mention of the little things that kind of let you know maybe you're in the right space, right? So having worked on Black Messiah, the story of Chairman Fred, and even though he didn't get to see his child born, like he put, there's a plan there, like it's almost there. It was like, here's the map, you know what I mean? Like in terms of a man, like he's such a powerful energy. Same thing with the Black Panther film, right? There's a part in the film where
it's interesting. I know exactly what you're talking about.
T'Challa's dad says, you know, have I ever failed you? You know what I mean? Like it's my job to prepare you for when I'm not here. If I don't do that, then I failed you. I think that the kind of, because when I pulled up on you at the studio and we talked about your father and you talked about wanting to, the biggest thing for you was protecting his wife and child. Like, I think that's all of us. Like, we are protectors. Like, yo, you know what I mean? But I think that the projects and the art and the things that we align ourselves with also speaks to, again, the things that we've received, which is why we ultimately find ourselves a part of them.
well, that's that standing on something that we talk about.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
not
So
gonna
you never
waver.
even you don't even have to think about it. It's just not out of line. It's in alignment because this is who I am. So there's never even a thing. It's instinctually. It's not even instinctually. It's energy driven. Like, why does he keep making those great choices? Because this is who I am. This is what was given to me.
we was talking, me and Lynn was talking about that. It was like, I was listening to, I was watching Narcos. And
He's finally, I'm a Narcos head.
yeah, so I was watching Narcos.
Seasons coming.
And I was just like, you know what? And I flipped on YouTube and I was watching Jake's, and he was just like this series on like being a master builder and all this other stuff. And he asked like literally a room full of men, like, who are you? And he asked them that, and then he asked again, like, who are you? And it's like, it's our responsibility as fathers, husbands to set that example, but to leave, build that foundation. Like my brother Archie said, like, when his father passed away and left this life, he said there was no emotion that was still left there, and it's just like he felt, and simple things like that. Evan was just like, kids need to know, like they'll know if they're loved, and they know that, and being there and being present, it's simple things, it's little things, man, that we look at it where we're just like, this is my wife. She's just like, hey, read to the kids, and I'm like, okay, come bring them down, Maddie bring a thick book, right? Maddie bring a thick book, and I'm just like, Daddy gonna tell you the story, man, make up a little story or something. But I'm sitting there telling the story, I got the book in my hand, and I'm telling like this story off the top of my head, and I turn and I look over at them, and like the look in their eyes, man, and that's the thing, that's the beauty in life.
Focus.
That's that energy. That's that thing, man. That's important. But we have to embrace that responsibility and take ownership in that.
And I also think surrounding people that don't have that support. Because I've been finding myself, bro, riding around knowing that I have a child on the way, thinking about I'm also thinking about how big of a deal this kid is for me. And about the people that have come into this world and weren't a big deal to anybody. Wow. You know what I'm saying? And that shit been really like,
it's heavy.
Yeah,
it's heavy,
changing my perspective about a lot of stuff.
It's dope. It's like those
Just
things
wanna get
that
home
really
with
strip
kids.
it back. Right? Everybody's gonna be like, I'm headed home now.
Yeah,
I'm like, how to kids?
Nah, man, like,
Love you,
I
kids.
appreciate you guys, man. Like,
Yeah.
I think we're all motivated, but anytime you can sit with other people that add more motivation, and you seeing people doing amazing things, and you could just be friends, and like you said, support from a place where when there's no ulterior motives, it's just like, let me know how I can help, let me know how I can be a part of what you got going on. So I appreciate all you guys, man.
Thank y'all for having us.
Thank you guys. This is beautiful, man.
Y'all should make a Sweet Life tea to say I ain't no hater. That was a bar.
That's why we got the marketing guy. I just told him we talking later. Archie,
That's dope.
I'm serious.
Yeah, I know. I'm dead ass. But no, man, thank y'all, for real.
No, thank you.
Blessing.
Thanks everybody for having
Fellowship,
us.
right? This is like some real fellowship right here.
Yeah, we're gonna keep
It's
this
amazing.
bond going.
It was amazing.
Y'all must be on diet. Y'all left all this barbecue.
No, we
soon
about
as
to
the
eat.
cameras
Soon as
go
the
off,
cameras go off.
Yeah, right?
I feel like half the time I was eating, no one else was eating.
I was in here
looking
smashing
over,
that shit while y'all was
I was the
talking.
only one like this.
I couldn't reach shit.
Either.